In this video, you'll discover how to create an interactive element like this one, where people can click on the button and it changes the content next to it. Now, as you can see, this is inspired by the Business Made Simple homepage, and I did a part 1 to explain how to do the top section of this homepage. So if you're interested in how to do the top section, then go back, look at part 1, because in this video, we'll just cover this interactive elements. Excited to learn how to do that with Thrive Architect without any custom coding? Then keep on watching. Alright, so here I'm on my website, I'm on a landing page where I previously recreated the top section of this homepage. And now what I'll do is I'll go into this new background section here. And the little hack that you need to know in order to create this element without custom coding is that we're actually going to use the pricing table to get this done. Now, you might think this does not look like a pricing table, and that is absolutely true, but the pricing table element has this really cool feature that allows you to show different instances of a box. So normally for the pricing table, this is used to show different prices for your monthly or your yearly subscription, for example, or maybe different currencies, so you can show in dollars and in euros. But right now we're gonna hack this element a little bit to use it for the purpose like we've seen on the homepage. So let's get our pricing table element, add a new element, search for our pricing table, and then drag it on the page. Now, because we only need one box with content and not 3 boxes here, I'll delete the boxes that are too much. So let's just delete these 2 boxes. And now we have this one box that we can start adding content in. Now, at the moment, we don't have the buttons yet. And I will actually first add content into this content box, because then the moment that I add buttons, it will create a copy of the original box and will save us a lot of time to already have the layout ready for the other boxes. So let's do that first. As you can see here on the original design that we are trying to recreate, we have this image, and then on top of the image we have an icon and this play trailer text. Now what this indicates to me is that we will need to use our image not as an image element but as a background style on another element, because then it will allow us to have that icon and the text on top of it. So each time that you see an image with then something overlaid on it, you want to think background image. And then underneath it, we have this layout with a little bit of text, a title, some more text, and then 2 different buttons. So let's create that now. First of all, I'll select this content box, and then in my borders and corners, I can see that there is a top border here, so this gray border, and we don't need that one. Now we have rounded corners, so I'll select the top corner, make that 40 pixels, and this right top corner, and also make that 40. This allows us to only have rounded corners on the top of this box. And then I will add a content box in here to add the background image. So our content box, let's in the background style add an image in there, choose an image, apply. And now we can start playing around with this content box to make it look the way we want it to. So first of all, we also want this one to have rounded corners. So on our left and our right top corners, we will put a 40 pixel margin. Then we want to make sure that this is on the top of this box, so without any margins or paddings. So let's go into our layout and positioning and then delete our margins that are on top of this element. And then you can notice that this isn't on the top yet, so let's select our content box surrounding this content box. If you are confused about this, you can use the breadcrumbs. So now you can see that the surrounding element is selected. And here we have the paddings that we need to remove. So what I'll do is I'll click on this lock icon, which now allows me to add the 0 just once, and then it will apply it on the top, bottom, left and right padding. So here, let's type in 0. Now, as you can see, this content box jumped into alignment with our outer box. I'll click on my content box again, and then in our layout and position, we can change the height of this image. So in height, we want a minimum height of, let's say, maybe 300 pixels. And now we can add our icon and our text in there. So first let's add an icon. And we want this to be a play button. So let's search for a play button. In the main options, let's make this color white. So either use our slider or type FFF and then that's white. And now I'll also want some text that says play trailer and drop it underneath my icon. This text is in capital, so in the transform I can use all capital letters, then change our color to be white. So as you can see here, this is linked to our theme colors. I can unlink this and then that allows me to change the color on there. Let's also make this bold and select our content box because I want this to be vertically aligned in the center. So in my main options, vertical positioning, I can set this to be center aligned. All right, now I can see that this image is a little bit light for the white text on top of it. So what I'll do is I will add another layer on top of our image. So let's go into our background style and then click on a new solid color layer. And now, as you can see, this adds a black layer with an opacity of 50% on there. I'll reduce the opacity a little bit. Let's maybe set this to 25 and apply. So now, rather than having to go into Photoshop, change this image and so on, adding another layer on top of it makes it really, really easy. Now, if you want black text, then make sure to add a white layer on top of it. If you want white text, then add a darker layer on top of it. Now, the next thing that we want to happen is when somebody clicks on this box or this player or this play trailer is that it opens a video lightbox on click. So for that, rather than doing this only on the play icon, I will select my content box and then go into animations and actions. And from here, I can click pop-ups and then I can open a video. Select the source, so whether this is a YouTube, Vimeo, Wistia video, or a video that is hosted on your own website, and then add the URL in there. All right, now let's have a look what the rest of this box should look like. So in here, I can see that we have text and we also have clearly padding in between the text and this white box. So to make sure that our text doesn't go until the borders. And then we have these buttons, and this button I already showed you how to do it in the previous tutorial, so it will be quite fast to do it now. In order to get the margins, the easiest way to do this is to add a content box in here. And then I can add paddings to this content box. So from here, I'll add a 60 paddings to our left and our right margins. Now this makes that our content will not go full width anymore, and that each text element that we drag into this content box will respect these paddings. So rather than doing it for each text element individually, adding this content box makes it really easy to just do it for all the elements inside of this content box. So I'll add a first text element in here, which is our category. I think it's communication first. No, strategy. So we want to add strategy. And then again, in our main options, we can transform this to be all capital letters. And then all the text in this content box, we want it to be left aligned. So for that, again, rather than going into each text element and then left align it, I will select the most outer container. In this case, it will be our content box, and I will tell all of the typography settings and all of the text elements that we drop inside there to be left aligned. So now when I add another text element in there, it will automatically be left aligned. Now the next element is a heading, and then we have a paragraph underneath there. Now for that, I will just use some lorem ipsum text. Next, we have a button. And because we already created this button, we can use our template sections, go into our saved styles, and then select our button that we already created. Now, if you're unsure how to do that, check out the first part of this tutorial. And then we want this button to be left aligned. And it says read more. And then we have this play trailer button. Now this button, of course, you would link it to the right content. So with the button selected into the main options, you can add your target URL here. Now underneath that, I want another button. And this one, I want to unlink it from the buttons in this pricing table so that I can style it differently from this first button. So let's unlink this. And then let's go back into our templates. So I can click here on template button. And then as you can see, there are a lot of different styled buttons that you can use. So I'll go with this one that looks very similar to what we are looking for. And then change the text to say play trailer and change our color to be our blue. And then we also want to left align this and change our text to make it a little bit smaller. So in typography settings, I can make this a bit smaller. And then just like how we linked this content box, we can go into our animations and actions, delete the link that's on here, and add a pop-up, which is a video, and then add our video URL in here. Now we still need to adjust some of the space here, so let's click on this first text element in our main options. Let's reduce the line spacing. And then this looks very close to what we are going for right here. So I'll just delete the other elements that were still in this pricing table. All right, now that we have our content set up the way we want it to, we can add those buttons. And then, like I said, it will automatically copy this content so we can easily change it afterwards. But at least the layout is exactly the way we want it. So what I'll do is I'll select an element in here and I'll make sure to use the breadcrumbs to select the pricing table. From here, as you can see, we have something that's called instance 1. So that is our first button and our first content box. Let's call this strategy. So edit and then call it strategy, because this will be what's on the button. And then we will copy this one, so duplicate this original instance, and this will create a copy. So this one will be called communication. As you can see, the moment that you add more instances here, it automatically will add the buttons on top of your pricing table. And what we'll do right here is we'll select this button group, and then we'll use a little bit of styling magic to add it next to our box instead of on top of our pricing table. So in layout and positioning, let's first set this width to be 300 pixels. This now already added the buttons underneath each other because they don't have the space to go next to each other. And then we'll want to make sure that we align this to the left. And in our advanced options, we want this to float. So this is what allows you to have this pricing box table next to your buttons. And now we can simply start styling these buttons to make them look more like this type of layout. Now, as usual, I will use my breadcrumbs to know which elements I need to edit. So as you can see, once you click on a button here, or once you click inside a button, it says inline text. So this means that you're editing the inline text. If you click on the next one, you're editing the button group icons, and this is for the normal state. And then if you click on this button that is blue at the moment, you can see that you change the button group for the active state of the button. So right now the active state is our communication box here, and so we can start editing that. So in our main options, let's first change our color. So we want this to be dark blue. And then we want this button to go full width, And in our layout and positioning, you can see that there's a forced 20 pixel margin on here. So let's set that to 0. And let's also add some space in between these two buttons. So let's add a 5 pixel top margin on there. In our typography settings, we can use a left alignment. So now our text is left aligned. And then we can do the same for this button, which is our inactive button. So left aligned. In the main options, let's go full width. In our layout and positioning, let's not have any margins on there. And then we'll also add a 5 pixel margin on top of that. Now we want to select what's surrounding this group. So our button group. And here we want this effect to have like this white box, right? With the rounded corners. So what I'll do is I'll first of all add a background style on here. So let's make sure this is white. Then let's add borders and corners. So all surrounding this box, we want a light gray border. And then we want rounded corners, so all around the box. Let's maybe do 20 pixels. All right. And then in our layout and positioning, first of all, I'll lower this a little bit. So add some margin on top of it. And then in our padding settings, let's do 10 padding on the left and the right. Let's do 20 padding on the left and 20 padding on the right. And then also use 20 on top. So now we have this box and we have our buttons that are inside it. So the only thing we need to do now is create more of these instances. So let's make sure we select our pricing table, go into our main options, and then simply duplicate these instances. Now let's make sure we give them the right name. All right, now we have the right names for the buttons, but at the moment, because we copied our original instances, this content here is still the same for each one of our buttons. So even if we click on the buttons, it would seem like nothing is changing. So let's fix that now. Let's go into our communication tab. So right here, make sure our communication is selected. As you can see here, that indicates that this is selected, and now the content that we are changing here is the content of this communication box. So first of all, I'll change the image here. So let's click on the content box, and then in background image, you can replace this. And let's call this communication. And then of course, you change everything that you want inside this content box. So let's save this. And now let's see the effect on our website. So let's preview. And as you can see here, we have our element and we can click on the different buttons here. And this changes the content of this element right there. So that is how you can create this interactive element with Thrive Architect. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. And of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate, leave them in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so that you're notified when we publish new videos.